Hello, can everyone hear me? Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Toyin Lanaday, and I will be your host for this afternoon's panel. On behalf of myself and the Studio Orry team, thank you all for joining us as we engage in stimulating dialogue surrounding today's topic at hand, world building as a mode of storytelling through culture, fashion, music, and art. What is Studio Orry? Founded by multidisciplinary artist Orry Shenjobi, Studio Orry is a creative enterprise focused on community engagement, creative infrastructure, and cultural storytelling. Positioned at the intersection of art, media, and innovation, Studio Orry champions creativity's power to shape culture and connect communities. So, what inspired this event, you may ask? The impetus for this panel was inspired by Orry Shenjobi's latest immersive exhibition, Awambe, a vibrant exploration of Nigerian party culture that debuted at the 60th Venice Biennale, one of the world's most prestigious cultural institutions. But this wasn't just an exhibition. Shenjobi built a world, an immersive experience where audiences could not only see the art, but also hear it through a transportive soundscape produced by platinum artist Yinka Bernie. It was here we explored how world building, when done right, can be used as a powerful tool to storytelling and inspired us to engage in dialogue with others across various disciplines. So with that, I'd like to introduce our esteemed panelists. First up, Orry Shenjobi. Yes, round of applause. Orry Shenjobi is a multidisciplinary artist, product designer, and creative entrepreneur. She's the founder of Studio Orry, an enterprise centered on community engagement, cultural storytelling, and creative infrastructure. In 2024, she debuted her solo exhibition, Awambe, a collection of community and culture at the Venice Biennale, as part of Foreigners Everywhere with the European Cultural Center. Beyond her studio practice, Shenjobi is committed to empowering creative talent. She's the co-founder and director of the Laho Foundation, a nonprofit advancing art, education, and artist development in Nigeria. Through initiatives like the Laho Artist Development Program, she supports emerging artists with mentorship, resources, and global exposure. She also co-founded Egwu Records, a media and entertainment company that began as a vinyl collective and has since evolved into a platform dedicated to preserving and celebrating sound culture. Across all her work, Shenjobi is guided by a core belief. Creativity is a catalyst for change, a means to build worlds, build communities, and shape the future. Orry Shenjobi. Next to the stage, we have Goodness Victor. Goodness Victor is a multidisciplinary creative with a background spanning music, design, and technology. She currently works as a songwriter and publishing partners manager at Spotify, where she creates impactful opportunities for songwriters and producers while helping shape the future of music publishing. Before joining Spotify, she worked as an A&R at Decca Records, Universal Music Group, identifying and supporting emerging talent. She transitioned into the music industry after starting her career in digital transformation at top consultancies, including Accenture Song and AKQA. Her creative practice spans design engineering, illustration, printmaking, and poetry, a reflection of her commitment to storytelling across both artistic and strategic disciplines. Goodness Victor, everyone. Next up, we have Oroma Kukigam Itegboje. Oroma is the co-founder and creative director of This Is Us, a Nigerian-based fashion and lifestyle brand, and a fashion entrepreneur whose expertise bridges design, creativity, and business management. With a legal background, extensive field research into materials and craft, and a wealth of experience working with both international and African luxury brands, she brings a unique perspective to creating culturally resonant products and building innovative and sustainable enterprises for the future. Ladies and gentlemen, Oroma. And last but not least, Yinka Bernie. Careful with the mic here. Okay. Yinka Bernie is a platinum certified producer, sound artist, and co-founder of Egwu Records, a vinyl shop and independent music enterprise based in Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you. He most notably produced Amare's global hit, Sad Girls Love Money, which earned platinum certification and widespread acclaim. Known for blending emotion with experimentation, Yinka's work spans moody soundscapes and cinematic scores, always grounded in a deep commitment to storytelling through sound. Beyond his production credits, he has carved out a space in sound design for short films, documentaries, ads, and installations, contributing to projects for brands like Adidas, Amazon, Peacock, Dylab, and Santan Dave. Everyone, Yinka Bernie. And now I'll pass it off to our moderator, Orry.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you to my panelists. Thank you to Tony. So let's get into the conversation. Over the course of today's discussion, we'll touch on the power of storytelling and how effective storytelling can be used as a vehicle to engage with audiences. So just to start us off, an icebreaker. So growing up, what would you say your favorite folk tale or story was? If I can go first. Mine, to be honest, anything to do with like Ijapa. For those that don't know, Ijapa is a turtle or tortoise in Yoruba. And those stories always taught me, life is long. And to navigate, you have to have wisdom and a lot of patience. Goodness, what about you?
First of all, thank you for having me. So when I was thinking about this question, proverbs were coming up mainly as opposed to folk tales. I think proverbs are such great ways of like passing down community truths. And my parents are from the Niger Delta, so this proverb is probably specific to that region or any kind of swampy or coastal region. So it's about like the mangrove tree, but it's one my mum always tells us all the time. But to simplify it, it's the seedling that doesn't listen to like the mother tree and kind of drops from the tree when the tide is in will end up like being washed away, as opposed to kind of landing and germinating and growing roots. So yeah, that's a proverb that I always think about, and it's just about kind of listening to the wisdom of more experienced people and things. So yeah, that's mine.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Orry. So for me, I think it's the one story that I heard so many times was the story of the tortoise and the hare. And for me, that story just really stuck, because the first time I heard the story, it was boring because I thought the hare had won. Like, what is this? And it just really reminds me every day, even in my life now, that there's nothing wrong with being slow, and all that you need to do is just persevere and be consistent. And yeah, whoever arrives there, but there's actually nothing wrong with being slow. So that for me is what stuck.
Yeah, thanks for having me. All right. For me, I don't think mine is deep. Is this one. For people that went to high school in Nanj, the one of Madame Kwekwe. Yeah, that was crazy. Because it was universal. A lot of people knew that particular story. So I think that's what comes to mind right now.
Okay, cool. So each of us sitting here, we've all either built a world through, a brand or your own or someone else's. So let's kind of deconstruct that. So what does world building mean to you? And can you describe a world that, you've built yourself or helped build? For me, I would say how I look at things with Studio Orry, it's a very kind of complex and layered entendre. So Studio Orry is essentially the universe. And then the basis of this conversation that, that brought us here today is Awambe. And Awambe is like a tiny island in one world in that universe. So personally, world building to me, like, I feel it really, it never started off to me as like, okay, I want to build this world. This is exactly what I want to do. It kind of happened gradually, even before I knew what world building was. And I think in today's world, it's become kind of like a buzzword. But I've always felt that if you're going to put anything out, work-wise, it has to be digested. The people that are receiving it are not in your head. So how do you communicate that idea to them? The truth is, you kind of just want to get to the end and just kind of show and just, but you have to essentially display or produce things step by step so that it's easier for people to digest. And for me, what that does is it helps to translate culture, especially people that have no idea where you're from. They don't know anything about you. It's like a blank canvas. So you have a minute or even less than to kind of grab their attention. So what are you going to encapsulate in that moment for them to say, okay, this is something that they want to digest, they want to stay here and experience. You have to kind of walk them through it, whether it be with sound, visuals, food, whatever it is, to be able to translate that idea so it cuts across, not just stays on the surface. For me, that sums it up. Orma, what about you?
I mean, when you invited me onto the panel, the first thing I thought about world building is this is the opportunity to really think about the world that we've been building, because like you said, we have been building a world, but I feel like the story of This Is Us kind of started with that story of cultural pride and just like conscious creation. And we didn't really know the exact world we wanted to build. So for me, world building, it doesn't just stop at the story. It's how it kind of evolves over time in like designing the future, influencing culture, and shaping identity. So I feel like that happens over time with like activating products and lifestyle. With This Is Us, I think the world that we've built is one that starts with a very, very strong sense of belonging and pride in self and in like who we are. And I'm sure the question is going to come up about who us is. It's not something that we actually defined from the beginning, so we just kind of left it very open. But yeah, I think world building is a living practice for us that is evolving over time.
Yeah, for me, I feel like in world building, because I do a lot of different things, the worlds I've built have been kind of different in terms of, with like music, for instance, is like my experiences, which like, I feel like the way that world is built is from people that connect to what I'm talking about. So they connect to that and we build our world. And that community is there from just my experience. And on the other part, building someone else's world as a producer. For instance, Awambe, I remember when we started this last year, we're like, what direction are we going? And we went like a very different direction before. Then we were like, Usain was like, oh, this is like a mood board, let's go this direction. And we're able to build our world. So it's kind of different in that way, because the first one is through experience. The other one is through like helping people do stuff. And then with Ego is more interest, like a bunch of people that have like similar interests, like vinyls, uh, enjoy collecting, just enjoy music. We create our world that way. So it's different ways for me uh, to like build worlds, but in every way, there's always a common interest that, yeah, I feel like is a good way to explain it is like a dorm. Like everyone in a dorm they're all going to the same school. You get, there's that common interest. It's not like random people all being together like an apartment or whatever. So, yeah, for me it's different ways, but there always has to be like a common interest for everyone in that world. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Yinka and Orma. I also want to add this while you were both speaking, and goodness, I'll come to you as well. But you know, what's important to you when shaping these experiences? Yinka, you said, you know, like a common interest. But I want to hear more from Oroma about that. Then, yeah.
I think there's two things that's very important to me when shaping these experiences, but maybe I should track back a little bit to like a very simple form of how I see world building. So when I first started with This Is Us, before I started with This Is Us, I was very happy I had another fashion brand and I was designing stuff and I was happy with it, but it just didn't feel like the stuff that I wanted to wear. Like the clothes were not saying anything about who I was. And I felt like sometimes when I leave my house, I want to be proudly saying something about who I am without actually saying anything. And not in a like screamy way or like I'm going to an event and I'm wearing a dress that's a couture dress that is made in Nigeria, but just every day. And I really wanted that feeling of people just having something to put on their backs that speaks of where they're from every day. And that's where This Is Us started from. So for me, the thing that has to be in the room is that anchor on like culture and heritage, because our clothes actually speak before us, and that just has to be there, whether it's in like we're creating media or it's a film or it's a product experience, whatever it is, it just first of all has to be like anchored on some culture or heritage that's true to who we are. I feel like everyone that likes This Is Us loves it for that reason. And then the second thing is that we don't really, it needs to transcend like time and space. We shouldn't like, it's not really about anchoring in any one like place. Our culture is very broad and vast. So I feel like with those two things, once I have those two things, I can create any world. I can do anything, literally. I can take the This Is Us ethos and I can plunk it into any endeavor that I'm doing.
Yeah. Goodness, what about you?
For me, I feel like I've been world building most of my life. I'm sure many people in this room have. So I was the sort of kid that would organize kind of the playtimes with my younger siblings. So if we were going to play bakeries tomorrow, the day before I'd be designing the packaging and planning who would be the person that owns the store, that sort of thing. So I've been doing it since I was a kid, but more in my career and my creative practice as an adult. I've worn many hats. So as a designer, I think world building was really focused around personas and building out personas and understanding the worlds of those personas, which might look very different to the world that I exist in and what I'm interested in. So really building those out and having an understanding of that particular or multiple personas and what they need. And then now kind of working in the music industry and working with songwriters, producers, artists, it's really having an understanding of what world they're trying to build as a vehicle for their art, and working out how to facilitate that by understanding the world that they're trying to build. So it's world building in a different way, I guess. And then more close to home in my own personal kind of creative practice as a poet. I think language is a real important thing for world building for me. So I explore language a lot in my work. There's a particular poem that I wrote quite a few years ago, but it looks at the question of what language my mum dreams in, because she speaks multiple languages and understands multiple languages. So yeah, just exploring that question, then led to working with an illustrator who then built out a visual around the poem and that question. But yeah, it's something I'm really fascinated about, like if people speak multiple languages, what language they dream in or think in, and that also affects the world that they're building and experiencing.
Something that I just thought about, Sims. Sims, we were world building on Sims before we knew what world building was, which I think is very interesting because Sims goes way back, like decades. If you've ever played Sims, I know my sister is a big fan of Sims. So just growing up and having to like layer things, and what's even so interesting, I never really liked playing Sims because I just thought it just took too long. But now that we're having this conversation, it really points to thinking about that as well. It really points to how just within that, context, it's like brick by brick as well. It's just interesting. Okay, so, if I were to enter, the proverbial world of, this is us, or egu, or goodness with you and your poetry and creative practice, what would that world look like? What would people wear? What would people say? What would people do? Just kind of like Sims. What would that world? How would you translate that world from ideation to actual like concrete concept? Anyone can jump in first.
I'm happy to go first. It's such an interesting question. I guess for me, again, within the kind of poetry world, language being such a key thing for me, I think being able to see what language other people are thinking in would be really interesting within that world. I think we're almost close to that with just the technology that we have. So if you're on TikTok now, you can just click and see the translate of another person's language. Or I think earlier this year when it was banned in America and all the Americans were on the Chinese version, right, and had to kind of navigate understanding in a language that they're not super familiar with. Within that world, like having language within clothing or people being able to see or translate live. I'm also thinking around the ideas, everyone's talking about AI at the moment, I'll come back to that, but people thinking about what the tools will be that won't be the screens that we currently use, and so will things exist around us that can show how people are thinking, what languages they're engaging with, but beyond screens. That's kind of where my mind goes to if I'm thinking about what that world looks like.
Okay. Thank you.
So the This Is Us world. I mean, I don't think I have to say that everybody will be wearing blue. Mostly blue, maybe, and some other natural tones.
Well, let me ask you this, actually.
Please do.
Why blue or indigo?
So, I think just with our journey of arriving to where we're at is, we discovered the craft of indigo dyeing in the north, and it's such a like beautiful, sustainable way of creating and dyeing and like building community and living, and it's been there for over 500 years. There's not many things in Nigeria that have been there for over 500 years, but if you find something that's been there for over 500 years, it probably is good.
This is the dye pits in Kano.
In
Okay.
Kofamata dye pits. So we really like kind of zeroed into it because we just thought that it deserved to continue to be alive. At the time, it was really just about reviving the craft and keeping it going. But then exploring more and more, we realized that actually this is one of the best systems that exists even worldwide with dyeing. And everyone's talking about circularity now, but that is one of the most circular systems of dyeing or even creating textile ever, because everything that kind of goes into the pits is natural, and everything that, you know, at the end of the solution, it's like these 6-foot wells. They mix everything in there, including like indigo leaves that are farmed locally as well. So it just involves like the whole community. And at the end, when it can't die anymore, like the pregnant women sort of like drink the indigo solution because it helps with labor pains. And then after that, they like dig out the drudges and they burn that and then put it back in. So nothing, in the entire process, nothing is actually thrown away. And it's like a model, you know, like this is something that would be very like precious and valued everywhere in the world. And we just thought, you know what, until we can figure out another way that is more sustainable than this, or like figure out a way to actually achieve color and all of those other nice things that we want to do, how about we just use this for now? And the more that we started using that color blue, we realized that it became like some like identifier, like a marker, where like if you're wearing indigo, then you're probably wearing This Is Us. And that kind of like helps with, you know, connecting. Like when you walk into a room, just because someone is wearing This Is Us, you can have some kind of cues about like their value system or what they think about life or who they are, you know. So we thought, you know what, let's leave it and see, like, will we die if we only wear blue? Of course, in real life, everybody wears color. I wear color. But it's also very, you know, I mentioned before about how I started, my mind frame was that I just wanted clothes that I could wear every day, like unceremoniously, that really felt like me, or I had like a part of my heritage or who I am as a Nigerian in the clothes. And for us, blue was also a very kind of uniform color that can go with everyday life. And so it made sense to stop at the color blue. And I think our experience with designing around the color has been not limiting, but very actually freeing to just, you know, design around the color and see what we can do. So,
Yinka?
Yeah, for me, I feel like it's kind of difficult to say because what I do is like I just put things put things out and people like gravitate towards it. So it's difficult for there to be like a common indicator because anybody can like whatever I do because it's like online. But with like Egu, I feel like with Egu, there's a common interest. I feel like people that come to our events really like music. Because I tell people all the time, I feel like Egu events are not really like parties. Like, you're not coming to dance particularly. Most of the time is people spinning and other people coming to the DJ. Oh, what song is that? What vinyl is that? And you're showing them like, oh, it's from here. I got it from here. And with vinyls, with the vinyls I collect, because I don't really buy like that. I mostly like collect, like when I travel, older people. So there's always a story. So there's like always a conversation there. With the event, it's more that like people that just like music, coming together and like just chilling, having a good time, meeting new people. With that, there's like a common indicator. But we like, for instance, with the work we did with Awambe, there's no way the common indicator is me and you or the team. So whoever like consumes it could be anybody. But I think in saying that, I feel like the world building that happens there has to be strong in like the production or like the making of it. So it's like dope. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Back to what I was saying about things translating, you have to be very intentional about that. So let's kind of spin this a bit and speak about, external parties. So a lot of brands have planned and failed, to tell stories that don't often include like the true arbiters of those stories. So how important is it for brands to authentically tell stories by including, the origins? So things like, Beyonce did that quite well with her album, with the Lion King, kind of the world she built there. She knew that she had to kind of extend and open the door for where that music, where those visuals come from. So how important is it? I'll start with you, Goodness, because you have more of like the corporate structure background.
I think it's super, super important. I think the brands that succeed are the ones that get that, get the right kind of balance with that. A campaign that comes to mind, not that I worked on, it's just one that I've seen and I really loved, and it 4 years later, I still remember it. So I don't know how many people have seen it, but about 4 years ago, Clark's did a campaign with Jamaica. They had some prominent Jamaican figures within this marketing campaign, so like Coffee, Raheem Sterling, so also from like Caribbean artists or people from from Jamaica, and then people in the diaspora. But if you go back and you watch that, there's a mini documentary as part of the campaign. It's just so authentic to that story. And if you have grown up around kind of Afro-Caribbean people, there's an affinity with Jamaicans and the Clarks as a brand and the shoe. For me, growing up, Clarks were just like the place. It was where you went to buy school shoes. But in their culture, it's like a big thing in terms of if people are going home, they'll take Clarks from the UK back to Jamaica. They send barrels back. So to watch this mini documentary and see this campaign where they've included these people who are telling authentic stories from their own families, or you can see on their faces, like I remember my uncle used to have a pair of Clarks that he loved and would take care of, and it's translated into the music over the years. There's Jamaican songs that mention Clarks that I'm sure many people are familiar with as well, but for Clarks to not have to do that, and this kind of story between the country and that brand has been for decades. It's not a new thing, but only in recent years, so about 4 years ago, they did this campaign to really highlight that connection. Is just a really good example of a brand, telling an authentic story and building out more. It's probably something that would translate to the next generation in such an amazing way, and allow Clarks to be within the next generation's kind of world. But it was just done so well. That's an example for me.
That's very interesting. Thank you. Inka?
Sorry, man. That Clark story stuck in my head. I don't remember the question. What was the question?
So, we've seen many brands, attempt and fail to tell stories, but they don't necessarily include, the origin of, those stories, where those stories come from. They kind of just appropriate.
I think more and more in this day, people build out of references more than research, right? Like I feel people don't really people just put things together, mood board, and just go with it, right? There's just a few people that I feel like stick to the story, and I feel like it translates. Like the best brands, they all have like stories, from even their logos, like for instance, like what's it called, Pentagram. Pentagram, they've designed a lot of logos, and when you read like the stories behind like a lot of logos, it makes sense how why the brand is the way the brand is. Do you get what I'm saying? Even like a This Is Us, like if anyone was wearing This Is Us here, I would know based on like the blue and things like that. But at the end of the day, I feel like the same way they use references, I feel like there's always gonna be people that get it and people that just are doing it for the fun of it or just to make money. So I think there's always gonna be that in like products or making things. There's always gonna be people that really care about it and people that just are in it because people are doing it or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Orma, what about you? What do you think about that?
So I think especially now, with the internet and like social media, where it just seems like everybody's culture is all mashed up together. Like we don't even know what's what anymore. Like I can be here and I'm in Miami. Like I know more about what's going on there. It's more important now to really kind of include the people behind those stories in the product, because there's just so much product. There's so many worlds out there. There's so many products. There's this. How do you even connect to something if you don't know that it's for you? And how do you know that it's for you if you can't see the person behind or the people behind? So I think now more than ever, it's so important to like bring either the people that you're telling the story about, or the people making the things, or just the people that should be in that world, to have them more front facing and to tell the story with those people in center, so that it can really like connect with the audience and who is supposed to be connecting with. I think with This Is Us, we've always done that. Like from the get go, it's been everything that we're shooting or launching, or it's always starting from someone or someone in our community. We worked with most people like that we work with. We've created stories with them because our story is not like a story of us, it's a story of us.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, oh, someone comes and they have this idea for a story, and then we do the story with them and it's about their story. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say the same. I always say that my work is deep rooted in community, and just coming from Nigeria and having such a rich culture, you cannot you cannot not represent that. Yeah, so that is a perfect layup to our next question. So why do you feel that world building is important, in today's current climate?
Yeah. For me, I think it's important just to have a solid foundation, like for whatever world you're building to like stand like solid, like research, identity. These are very important. Like you can't just be doing anything, man. To be honest, yeah, you can't just be doing anything because now things are very. People are, for instance, like what was a good example? Like a dial-up. When dial-up came up, it was dope. Boom. 2 years later, so many boo-boos, same, no story, nothing. Do you get what I'm saying? So there's always going to be followers, but I feel like for longevity, like there has to be a story, or it will just that phase. It will phase out, right? Because a good example is like the dial-up now, for instance. I feel like they can like elevate or they can like move up. So what happens to people that follow them? Do you get what I'm saying? There's nothing there. They keep following. Do you get what I'm saying? So there's nothing authentic with it. But I feel for anyone trying to build like something or do something, I feel there has to be a story. Like try, like because now people the idea is just from idea idea, Pinterest, boom, is a business. So I feel people need to like just do more work and research. So the brand is solid. Yeah.
So I just want to riff off of what Yinka said, or like kind of respond to that, because I think that with your dial-up example, right? I think that all the followers and the copycats are part of the world. Because they are helping to build the world. Not everyone can actually afford to buy dial-up. And now they've created this new world where everybody's wearing this thing, and it's actually everywhere in the world. People are going to start dressing like this, and it's not just because of dial-up, it's because of everybody else that created those things that look like dial-up. So when you're building your world, I think that it's very important to remember that you're building a world for you and for everybody, because that's how the world is. It's like there's going to be people that exist in your world that can either harm your world or help your world, or but you just have to make space for all the elements in that world. I think also something that is important with world building and why it's important is that there's like, I think if you just do a product, like when you build a world, you actually leave space for people to prosper in the world. And that's why it's important to have a world, because the idea of a world is that it can host people and things. Another thing that I wanted to add is that I don't think the world has to be big. It can also be very small. And it can start small and it can end small, but it's still going to be a world, and every world can fit into every world. But essentially, all I'm just trying to say is that I don't think world building is, it's just something like Yinka said, it's just something that if you just think through the world that you're actually building and build something that actually has relevance, that's connected to people, first of all, then it ends up being a world that can live long, that can sustain, yeah.
And for me, I'm kind of thinking of it from like the technology standpoint, and how world building and art within world building can influence technology and technological advancements, because we're in such a interesting stage at the moment, right? It's almost like being alive when the printing press was around, or dawn of the internet. And so I a bit of background for me, so I studied design engineering, and I remember, so we were talking about AI like 10 years ago at university. I remember going to an exhibition in LA, and some of the early kind of people that were whistleblowing around what are the ethics around this, what biases will be coded into this, they had an exhibition at that point. Fast forward to today, we're seeing some of that play out. And so for me, there's the popular saying of like, life imitates art, right? So if those who are able to use world building as a tool to create worlds, create existences, able to do that in a way that can then influence real life, I'm a bit idealistic, but I hope that that would mean we start to build a world that looks a bit better than some of the more negative sides of the technology that we're about to enter. So I think that's where it is for me, of like, how can world building influence technology and build a better future as opposed to a worse one. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so Yinka, I have a question for you. So when developing the soundscape for Awambe, were you intentional about, how you wanted the audience to experience it? Did you like put yourself in their shoes? What did you want them to feel? And how did you want the sound to, help immerse them into the exhibition or the world or the project at large?
Yeah, I feel, again, with like this world of view with Awambe, I feel the collaborators, what you guys already did, and I feel like it's just like, how do I explain it? In design, like you're working in design, like you're a new designer in a company, and there's already like a design system. Do you get? So it's not like you're putting like a new color or doing like anything new. you're just working with like a system and just putting things together. That's how it was for me, because it was interesting. Like Owambe's, I don't think anybody has reimagined it. So to me, actually, the first thing we did was a bit, because I was like, okay, soundscape for something in Venice. I was thinking more experimental, like more very experimental, because usually when I do stuff with like galleries and artists, it's very experimental. It's very, you know, those YouTube videos that go for 1 hour type stuff. So we did that, and we're like, nah, it doesn't work. So what we then did was I got like a band. So we got like a funny story. I don't know how many people have been to Nigerian weddings, but there's these people in traditional weddings. They're like women that just hype up the groom and the bride. So we hired them, and they thought they were coming to a wedding. So they dressed up. They were fully dressed, and they were like, "Oh, we're in the studio." We were like, "Yeah." They even thought like, cause I wasn't there, so they thought the wedding was like virtual or something. but but to build our world, we had to like recreate like the entire thing. So it felt like, or they already felt like they were going to a wedding, right? So I just give them guidelines, things to say, when to say it, how to say it. Also, with the guy, the lead singer, because if you listen to the vinyl, like she kept saying Orry Shenjobi. So to me, it just felt like Orry's wedding. With, do you get what I'm saying? So if it's Orry's wedding, like a name would be, a family's name will always come up. Do you get what I'm saying? So I told the guy that, oh, keep saying the name in different intervals, different ways than Awambe. So we just had to recreate that scene for people to feel that way. Because also, if somebody from Venice or somebody from anywhere comes to a Nigerian wedding, that's the same thing they would listen to. So yeah, with that, it was just with the help of the team, the guidelines, the system that was already built. It was easy to integrate that sound. Yeah.
Just a quick follow up from that. A funny story actually. One day I was, at the exhibition. I was just doing my rounds, and a couple came in, and I think they're from a part of France. The lady didn't speak a word of English, but her husband, kind of, a bit. And when they were exiting, they stayed for a while to experience it. And when they were exiting, I saw the lady trying to Shazam the song. And it was very interesting because this song is in Yoruba. We played it while everyone was seated. It's in Yoruba. The only thing there is probably like my actual first name that's not. And it's just interesting that she didn't understand what they were saying, but she tapped into it. She liked it. She enjoyed it. And I had to tell her husband to tell her that it's not on Apple Music, it's not on Spotify, which is why we pressed the vinyl for it, because it was so popular that people wanted a piece of that, wanted to kind of take that with them. So yeah, that's a very interesting story. So Orma, so you've spoken already about the name This Is Us. So it embodies a sense of community and belonging, as you've said. How has that helped shape the way you've built and nurtured like community through your work? Because once you've started to what it is now, obviously it's grown. So how intentional or unintentionally intentional have you been about shaping the way you've built and nurtured that community?
I think from the start, building the community was quite organic in the sense that we just had an instinct that if we have this product that is if we have this brand that makes these kind of products that carry Nigerian pride or African pride, people will connect with it in that way. But then we realized that it wasn't just about that. It's also about just that way of like creating with intention and going in with the intention of like sustaining livelihoods, stories, culture, you know, and that people will connect to that way of creating, because everyone kind of, not everyone, but a lot of people in this room, whether you're from Nigeria or you're from Africa or you're from Brazil, everyone can create consciously. And we had the instinct that we will connect with people who create consciously. They will be connected to the brand. So we didn't do much in terms of like trying to build the community. We just had the name. And I have to say that like, we thought, oh my God, this name is very heavy. Like, how are we going to build the community that's gonna fill in this name? Who's us going to be? And we didn't know who us was. So all we did was we wrote a mantra. And that's really all we ever did to define who we were. So even when people would ask, it was like, this is us, is it Nigerians? It's like, no. Is it Africans? Who is it? But what the mantra did was like, it connected the right people to us. And then what we've done through that is just like do things with the right people. So collaborate a lot with the right people. And just really keep that intentionality of creating consciously. Yeah, I think that's how we've shaped and built community with our brand.
Yeah, you said something that was very interesting, and it kind of, as a bystander or a witness, it made me think that as creative, entrepreneurs, we tend to like overthink every single step, but kind of from the outside looking in, you might not have been that intentional, but things kind of just flow. That's what I realize, and I guess people say at the end of the day, everything comes together, or we go all day, all right, things like that. But I think a takeaway from this is we need to just let things take shape by themselves.
Because world building takes time.
Yeah.
All you need is one intention, and then time kind of builds the rest of it.
Yeah. So, goodness, you've worked, at the intersection of creative industries with corporate clients like, Amazon, Virgin. How have you seen brands succeed or, fail at building worlds, brands that want to tell like meaningful stories?
Yeah, I think it's quite simple. The ones that succeed often prioritize or leverage human connection and human stories. The ones that fail don't do that. And in the success, actually trying to solve a human problem with the product and building out the personas like I mentioned before. And so one is actually a Spotify one. Around the city, definitely in London, I can't remember which other cities, there was a campaign quite recently that was focused on the fans of an artist. And so within the marketing campaigns and the posters, it was a focus on, the artist's fans. So for example, with Doechii, there was a crocodile within the campaign. And so her fans will probably see this poster and identify with that. There were no words. The Spotify bug was there, but that was about it. So I think there was another one with Olivia Rodrigo. And again, it's not something I would be familiar with, but her fans would identify with that immediately. So it was all focused on fandom and things that each artist community would identify with without having the artist in focus at all. and that, I guess, translates to what it feels like for fans to be in the room with other fans of a particular artist, and they're all dressed the same, or they're all have similar songs that they love together. So that's one example. And then another one that comes to mind, that I'm sure many people in this room will be familiar with, but it's stuck with me, was Ramoa, I think last year. Did a campaign with Daniel Obasi, who's Nigerian, and it was the film where they're going back home to the east. So they're going from Lagos, and Ramoa being the luxury suitcase brand, they're going from Lagos to the east for a wedding, for a homecoming, and it's familiar to anyone who, whether it's you're going from one city in Nigeria to another city, or you live in the diaspora, you're going home. That feeling of going home to your family is really familiar. But for people who aren't familiar with that, maybe from other cultures, you could still feel the authenticity within the film in terms of how the family has embraced him coming home, or they're there for a wedding, and a lot of the culture is seen within that film. So again, it's a way that a brand that isn't really for many people, for some people you'd understand the connection, but for many people you might think that this is disconnected in some ways, but they were able to tell the story so well, so authentically. And so yeah, I think in summary, human connection of having that as the focus helps for the success.
Thank you.
So Inka, let's talk Ego Records. Ego Records started as a vinyl collective and grew to a media and entertainment company. And it's at the helm of it's people that are very enthusiastic about not just music but archiving and documentation of our culture and preservation of that. So I'm curious, how important is it, to foster community, and what ways do you think you've done so around Ego?
Yeah, I think with Egu, it started off really as so in like 2020 or 2019, one of them, I had like a design job, I like a finance, and designing for finance is very boring. It's the same thing over and over again. So like in my free time, I'll like do side projects. So Ego was that then. And for some reason, people really liked it. Then I think the first world building was like meeting Orry, to be honest, because Ego was very with me, because I do too many things. I tend to start something and just leave it. But with Orry, this is a proper world builder, because she's more like, okay, let's do this. Like she follows like procedures, right? So I think that was the first building, and it moved from that to us like, it's just getting bigger than us, like slowly, because the first time we did like an event, because everything was online, it was just like a random, the example I gave, I feel like I'm a victim of that, because it was very random, this thing, but with Orry coming in and like, let's make this a world. I think the first step was registering the business and then doing like the first events. And I did that in my crib in Lagos. And people really liked it. Then we were like, let's do it in London. And London was crazy. And it's grown from that to like the festival in Lagos, like having like, sometimes I think about it and we are like, oh wow, this happened in 2 years. And I imagine that's how a lot of like big companies start, because like I feel like it's interesting, but like the biggest brands in the world all started like Adidas, Nike, all these people started like 40 years ago, 30 years ago, this type of thing. So imagine like the amount of like work for that to be very solid. So I think time again is I feel time like letting things breathe. Like I don't think there's no brand that will come up like in 5 years and be like very, I think it's a fizzle out. But you can see like with brands like Nike, uh, Nike, Apple, different brands. You see, like they can always like recreate, like reinvent themselves. So I think with building any world, just let it, give it time. Yeah, give it time and like pace, like just pace it. I think.
Yeah, and at the bedrock of that is definitely feeding the community. Because you mentioned brands like Nike and Apple, and they are constantly feeding the community, like the world that they've created, for it to, if you just in layman, terms, like this world now that we're in, this planet, there's rain that waters the plants, that nourishes your body. And it's a constant cycle in most climates or parts of the world. So constantly feeding that machine is very important.
Yeah, and I feel also, I feel like out of all the marketing in the world, I feel like word of mouth always sells. So like your biggest source of profit as a business is the people. It's them that will like tell other people, oh, you should check this out, you should check this out. So I think prioritizing people and just making them feel, because what I noticed all the time when I do stuff is people like exclusive things. People really like feeling like, oh, I'm part of this. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm like
it's like a badge of honor.
Yeah, like a cult type beat. So I think people, yeah, when you make people feel very special, the ripple effect is crazy. So yeah.
Yeah. Orma. So first of all, I want you to give us a bit of a backstory on This Is Us, but within that, you would answer this. What drew you to the technique that you're about to explain? I don't want to say it. And how does it serve as a storytelling device in shaping the deeper narrative and identity of This Is Us? So, give us a bit of a backstory about This Is Us, and what drew you to the techniques that you used to making the clothes, and how do those techniques, serve as a storytelling device in shaping the deeper narrative and identity of This Is Us?
I mean, let me just start by saying that I actually studied to be a lawyer. I think, that's
many people did.
I'm a lawyer. I don't practice anymore, but I studied law, and I wanted to actually do either fashion or interior design, but I think my mom didn't think that it was solid enough to do in university. So I basically did my law, and then when I was just trying to start to practice, I realized that I'm not going to last in this thing. I don't even like reading. How can you be a lawyer and not read? So I decided that, I'm just going to start trying to make clothes. And luckily I was in Nigeria, so I was able to make clothes without being able to make clothes. Because I had tailors that I could share my sketches with, and they would bring the clothes to life. So when I started that and I ran it for 3 years, I feel like a lot of people loved what I was doing. All my friends, everyone was buying stuff. They just couldn't get enough of it. But I just felt really empty because and I think that what I was doing was good, but just personally I felt empty because I came with a lot of pressure of the potential that I had with being a lawyer, because I think I was also good with being a lawyer. But I came with that potential of thinking that, I could have been this, or I could have changed the world in this way, I could have, pushed myself in this way. And so I didn't just want to make clothes that made me feel good or made people feel good generally. I wanted to do something that I felt was really big, that would change something, or just have a really big sense of purpose or impact. And I came with that, and I guess that's why I just didn't feel I guess, fulfilled with the first brand that I had. So I stopped it and I went to study fashion experience and design management. And I came back and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. I knew that I wanted to create another sort of brand that was more like involved with craft or like culture. But there was no pressure. I was experimenting with things. And so I just decided that, you know what, I feel like I need like shirts. So people need shirts. People love shirts. I want to do a white shirt collection. And it just seemed straightforward. Oh, I'm going to make a white shirt collection. Cool. Let's go to market and get cotton. And we got to the market and we're like, oh, because I've had the experience of like making clothes and feeling disconnected from the textile, because what I was doing then was just going to the market, buying like imported fabric that was like leftovers from abroad. And they were beautiful, but I didn't feel connected to the cloth. So I went to the market and I was like, you know what, let's try and buy Nigerian cotton. And they just put me around in circles. There was no Nigerian cotton anywhere in the market. I was like, it's not possible. Because I know that Nigeria has cotton, you know? And just in that search of trying to find cotton, I realized that, we're not actually even using our cotton anywhere, you know? Nobody knows where. I think it went down to like Oshobo, where Adira is practiced. That's where they were using Nigerian cotton, because they needed like a local, sustainable source of the same cotton to make those cloths. And so we've started there and just went down the rabbit hole. We finally discovered where the cotton is coming from the north, blah, 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 plugged into all of that. And by the time we were finished with our research, we're like, okay, well, this cotton is not like the most premium. It's not Italian cotton, it's not poplin. How am I going to make white shirts with this cotton? So yeah, when I got there, it was like, oh, we need to figure out how we're going to refine this thing. And I also was kind of insistent on finding like some way that already exists, because I think we've come to realize that this is our design practice, is like finding something that exists and plugging into it, because it's easier to do that, and then just building on it. So we started researching about different ways to dye, and then we found the dye pits in Kano, which I spoke about already. And I guess where was I going with this? What was the question again?
So, you know, what drew you to those techniques, and how does it serve as a storytelling device in shaping the deeper narrative of This Is Us?
So, like, when we found the Kofamata dye pits, just spending time there, looking at the practice, like looking at all the stories that they have, like, about these cloths, like, the lines, they're lines, yes, but for them, lines means like especially parallel lines. It's like, it stands for like continuity, journeys, things like that, you know. So they have all of this meaning that's in the cloth, and that was just so like romantic for us. So I think it's this whole like trying to find this sense of purpose and impact and all of that. I kind of just knew that, oh, this is worth zeroing into, because I was going with that intention. And I just felt like it's worth centering this as a world to build around, that enough people can be a part of. And also, it's not just about the craft, it's also a lot about the people and all of us and our stories. And just knowing that world that just has the craft, the stories of the craft people, the creatives, the stories of the creatives, that's already a big enough world that can fit so much into it. So that is how
just you speaking about that journey, God is just really awesome, because when you feel like you've hit a brick wall, and I know how you would have felt in that moment when you couldn't find the cotton in the market, and you're just thinking like, so what am I going to do? What are we going to do now? You know, a side door just opened, and something that feels like, I've been deterred, or this is just never going to happen for me. It's don't underestimate the shortcomings, because God always just has a way of bringing everything to light, full circle. So
I think the opportunities definitely come from the limitations.
yeah,
In the sense that, like, we won't have all these different worlds to build if we didn't have some sense of purpose or something that we're trying to achieve. So even if you're like doing something in food, that you're just trying to tell stories of the kind of food you grew up eating, it brings back all this memory to people who know this food, where they can experience it anywhere in the world. But also it helps to, connect the world.
Yeah, so goodness, you worked on a project with Spotify and visual music platform Colors Studios. You hosted a writing camp in Nairobi, Kenya. You brought together 18 emerging and established R&B artists, songwriters, producers from across the African diaspora. And over 3 days, the camp centered on creative collaboration and cross-cultural exchange, with the goal of empowering the next generation of African R&B talent. I actually have 2 questions. So my first is, why do initiatives like this matter when it comes to fostering authentic storytelling and global artistic visibility? But also, when you think about globalization of African music, people don't necessarily think of the Horn or the East of Africa. So my next question is, why there? Why that area? Why that region?
Yeah, those are both amazing questions, actually. So one of the things that the team that I work within do is host these songwriter camps around the world. And I think it was a conversation, because that project happened a few years ago. But we were having conversations with my team that are based. We've got teams based across Africa, and then I'm based in London. Just around how much was happening around music coming out of West Africa, specifically Nigeria, how much was coming out of Southern Africa, Amapiano kind of rising, and Afro House, which has been happening for a while. But not many people were talking about the East, and there are exciting things happening in the East. And so with the goal that my team has of, we're able to connect people in a room in a way that they wouldn't be able to organically necessarily, like a brand, like with both of the brands that are working together, stepping in, are able to leverage their influence to connect people. So in terms of why there was a focus around East Africa, it was just because there wasn't a lot of conversation, and there's lots happening there. And then also, I think in that same year was the moment that the Grammys created their new category around Best African Performance. Historically, there'd been the World Music category and all sorts anyway. And within that, it listed so many different African genres, but so far, there's only been a few, if that, maybe one genre that's highlighted, if we're being really honest, when there were so many genres around around Africa. And going back a step, in my role at Decca, I was really focused on talent that was outside of popular West African music. So Nigerian artists doing folk music. The Cavemen are now huge and well known, but at the time when they were starting out, not many people were doing high life music, just if there were African talent doing rock music, just outside of the popular space. So again, having lots of kids in Nairobi working on R&B was just super, super interesting. But in terms of the project itself, being able to connect like hit-making writers from Nigeria. So there's a writer called Embryo who works with all of your favorites. He's probably, if you look in the credits, he's written with them. Being able to connect him with talent from Botswana, talent from Kenya mainly, was super cool. Or we had a writer come in from South Africa who again has a lengthy career, and she was able to work with emerging talent that are based in Nairobi. So being able to connect the dots, and the goal isn't always for there to be an outcome or this music has to be out after. It's for those connections and for those seeds to be sown
for potential collaborations down the line, and for the conversation to begin, for that story to start being made, and yeah, connecting the dots between different worlds as well.
Okay, so final question for you, Yinka. So in Tony's introduction, she referred to, the platinum hits, Sad Girls, Love Money, Amare. So did you envision how it will fit into like the larger creative landscape or story of her world when you were producing that track, or was it just more free spirited?
Yeah, nah, it wasn't that. It wasn't that. Although, like, I'd known her for a bit before Sad Girls, and we had a relationship, and she told me she was working on a debut album. But in making the record, there was nothing like that. The record was just in lockdown. I just made the beats and put it over like this girl skating. So Amari saw it and was like, oh, I should send her these beats. So I didn't make it for her particularly. So that was in my introduction saying the worlds I build are not intentional. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I build it and people gravitate towards it. So that was the case for the song where it wasn't intentional, but yeah, that was it.
Yeah, and congratulations on that. I just wanted to say one thing before we wrap up. On everyone's chair, you would have noticed like a kind of like a stamp print that was placed there intentionally. So please don't leave it behind. We worked really hard on that. I worked with a good friend of mine, Musa Gani. He's an artist based in Lagos. And I told him that I wanted to create, entrepreneur nuggets, seeing as well creative entrepreneurs on the panel. Just give people like a keepsake when they come for, to hear us speak today. And it's essentially speaking to people that are in the grind every single day. And if you flip to the back, you would see like the meaning of the image in the front. And we decided to do it in a stamp style. The team decided to do it in a stamp style because that's something that is past, present, and future. So yeah, please take them with you. They are designed and made with love. Thank you.
Let's give our panelists and our moderator a round of applause. Thank you guys for the discussion. I think one thing that we can learn and take away from this talk is that gone are the days where you are creating brands or creating entities without a backing of some sort that is with a story in mind. You cannot just create something just for the sake of creating it. You have to think of worlds and think of community and people and the real reason why you are doing what you're doing. So thank you guys for the stimulating discussion.